I wish that Jesus had told more of the story. I know what he was trying to do in that the Pharisees were watching. And he was trying to say something about their objection to his consorting with tax collectors and the unclean. Jesus was always telling to teach. Still, there are parts of this that are my story. It's a story of leaving and being lost, and love, and how it will not let go. Jesus didn't tell that that was not the first time, nor would it be the last time that I lost a son. The first time was in their youth. The two of them were fooling around, egging each other on in the fig orchard. And sure enough, the younger climbed way, way up to the top of a fig tree and fell out. It was fully 2 days before he opened his eyes, and 2 months before he recalled who he was or where he was. My heart was so full of grief, and I prayed to God daily for his return. My prayers were answered, but answered in a way that taught me that children are always about leaving, always getting lost, always the possibility of returning, though with each return they are less and less what they were once to you, and that it should be that way, but also that it breaks your heart. What is not told is how my older son was actually the first to ask for his small share of the land, not the whole bit, but just enough. And I'm sure that he wanted to prove himself to me. But I don't know where he got the idea that manliness was about independence. Surely I had modeled to both my sons right from their youth that we would work together as a family, as a clan, to solve the challenges before us. I regularly spoke to them about where to pasture the sheep and which olive trees needed trimming and pruning, and why that fig tree was infested but not the one next to it. But long before my younger son asked for his half of the inheritance, my older wanted his own field and flock to tend completely without my interference. I reasoned with myself that it was a promising idea. I figured he might ask occasionally for consultation or advice. But alas, it became clear to me pretty quickly what he meant by without your interference. He wanted no such discussion or deliberation. He was convinced he needed to do it all alone, and even on the best of days, he remained distant and closed off. But when things went badly, he would stay away and sleep in the outposts of our land, almost as if he were fleeing from the shame of it. So when his flock came down with sheep cads, rather than talking to me about it, he attempted to solve the problem by shearing, though I could have told him that it would be best done before the lambing season. I even went to see him and told them that if he wanted to, he could take the sheep out to my field that I had cultivated with lots of garlic and bird's foot trefoil just for this reason. But he would not receive my help. It is also true that his olive trees had a good harvest, but when they did, he had no appreciation for the original gift. He counted the success as all his own, though it was my father who had thought to plant those trees 70 to 80 years earlier that resulted in that stable harvest. He did not appreciate that he was a steward of such an inheritance and rather credited it to himself alone. It was equally bad when he was doing our part together on our shared lands. He did the work with a brittle sense of duty, like a hired hand. Occasionally, he would do things without consulting me at all, but mostly he took my suggestions as if they were commands. He would not discuss them with me. He could not see that there was a life-giving relationship that was offered in my word to him. Indeed, I never wanted that kind of obedience. I just wanted an abiding together. I wanted him to have a sense of freedom, even while he might rejoice in the inheritance that was his, in the web of relationships that were his. Why he could not understand me when I had told him time and time again, all that is mine is yours. He could not share. It had to be all his or all mine. No, truly, I tell you, my older son left me far earlier than my younger. So yes, when my younger asked for his full portion of inheritance, I gave it to him. He wanted to find his own place in the world too. And typical of him, he had to do it in grand gestures. So of course I raised the money and gave him his share in coins and promissory notes. And I watched him go with the heaviest of hearts and a sense of foreboding. I knew it was unlikely to turn out well. But that is what they do, these children. They are born to break your heart. I couldn't tie him to me any more than I could tie my older son to me. So when, after several years away, he was spotted coming back in rags and stinky clothes, my heart went out to him. I wrapped him in the finest robe I could find and brought food out for him to eat. And of course, there needed to be a celebration. There was nothing that could be held back. My heart was broken open for him. Some would say that I forgave him, but truly it wasn't a matter of forgiveness. It was just a matter of love. When my older son returned from his field to look in on the celebration, he was abuzz with hostility. Clearly, he could not share in the joy of his brother's return. Clearly, he had hardened his heart against his brother, and if truth be told, he was hardening his heart against me as well. I felt him further lost, if that was possible. At the same time, my younger son's heart was opening. Not only was he safe and well, there was now a sincerity to him, a willingness to receive, a gratitude. I grieved that it came at the cost of his humiliation, but that would soon be a bygone. Not long after the younger came back, the older demanded the rest of his share of the inheritance. Now, by then, the mortgage I had taken for the younger son had already been repaid, and so I had also increased the flocks handily. So the older got his full land portion, and I was able to keep the younger sons, we together to endeavor to make good on it. I hoped that by giving my older son his complete freedom, he might no longer be deviled by my voice in his head, which sounded to him like a command but was never intended to be that. I thought perhaps he might eventually return to me. For this I waited while my younger son and I worked to steward the other portion of the land. Oh, the younger was so teachable by then. His daily gratitude was like manna to me. And while I did not need such lavish gratitude, I rejoiced in this relationship. He and I became true partners in the stewardship of that land. As his skills increased, I gave him more and more of the responsibility of tending, though it touched me when he asked for my advice. When he came to talk over plans with me, I shared in rejoicing at his successes and sat solemnly by him whenever the news was grave. I wish I could report something hopeful about my older son. Instead, as the years went by, the division hardened, even like a border between the two halves of what was once one whole shared land. Like us, he had good years and bad years. Like us, he brought skill and thoughtfulness to the management of his flocks and orchards, and I could never rejoice when misfortune fell upon him. But oh, so often I wished that at the very least he would talk to me and share his burdens with me. But now there is my older son's own son, Elias. He is just short of manhood, and he crosses the boundary by the fig orchard and listens as my younger son, his uncle, tells him stories while we're raking the undergrowth. And then he asks questions. Why do you prune just so? And where are the sheep going to pasture next? And how old are these trees exactly? And how old are the ones on my father's land? And who planted them? I pray that he is learning. I pray that he sees the joy in shared effort. I hope that my younger son's stories of being lost and found, of being restored, of finding grace, of provisioning from the past, and co-creating our future, that those stories will sink in. And Elias will grow to know that being a man does not mean such loneliness as his father has. Perhaps he will know the joy of shared stewardship. Perhaps he will know how easy it is to be lost, and how much joy there is in being found.